Okay, so the first mobility check I'm going to do today is just looking at this muscle here, so the big muscles down the front of the thigh here. So easy to check this one. So all you're going to do is lie down on your stomach and we're going to raise the heel up. And from here, the same side, grab hold and see if you can get that heel to reach your hips. Okay, so if you can get it to reach the hips, I'd say that's good range of movement. You should feel no lower back discomfort when you do this. So you can see here, I can get that heel to reach with a little bit of a hold here. Now, naturally, if I raise my heel up without pulling on it, that is what we call the point of bind. So that's where naturally the muscle wants to go without you actually pulling on it. Now, normal range of movement would be if you can raise it and almost sort of get your heel to the hip here. Now, with a little bit of help, I can do that. So you could say that my point of bind, I'm slightly tight, but it's not too bad. If I could raise my heel to about here, I'd say that the quadriceps, so the front of the thighs, do need a little bit of work. The other thing you need to look for is if you raise the heel up and the hip lifts like this, then I'd say that you've got tightness through the hip flexors, and we'll talk about this in another video. Okay, so our second check today is going to be looking at the back of the leg, so at the hamstrings. I've actually made a video on this before, but so from here you want to keep the lower back nice and flat. And we're going to raise the leg up just to see where your leg will naturally go. So you can have the leg soft, I wouldn't say bent, and you don't want it dead straight. You want a soft knee, if that makes sense. Now when you're raising the leg up, quite often what I see is the hip here. Can you see my hip, or the pelvis comes up off the floor? So we want to make sure that the hips stay nice and square and that the hip doesn't lift. So you can see here that I've got about a 90-degree angle, and I would say that that is good. That's okay. Anything past, you see I'm struggling there, I've got a big stretch, I can't get any bigger movement out of that at the moment. So if you raise the leg and you've got it to about here, so less than 90 degrees, I'd say that the hamstring needs work. And don't forget, you're looking at what's happening to the pelvis, and when you raise that leg up, you don't want the hip to come up. So one thing I will just say is often tight hamstrings can cause lower backache, so it is an important check. So the third and final mobility check I look at with anybody I'm working with will be an overhead reach test. So for example, we're going to raise the arms behind the head, and you can see here that I can quite comfortably get my elbows to the floor, and I'm not having to compensate by raising my rib cage or my lower back to do that. So I can keep my lower back and rib cage down and raise the arms behind my head without too much flaring of the ribs. So what I do quite often see, especially if people have desk jobs, or they do a lot of driving, or there's a lot of tension through here or through the lats, is they'll raise the arms and they'll sort of stop about here is really common, or whether the arms are really bent. So these are some things that you need to look at. Or the other thing I was going to say is you can get the arms there, but there's big compensations through the rib cage. So what we're looking for, so an ideal range of movement would be you can keep the rib cage down and core nice and flat, and you should be able to raise your arms behind the head, keeping everything sort of down and relaxed. Now, if you can't do that, then I would say you've got tightness across the chest, shoulders, and through the arms.